So I was just thinking, hmm, like you can look at someone's life and it's like a simulacrum. I don't know if I'm using that word right for this. Like kind of like a mirror or like say someone who's working super hard but barely has anything. Let's take it this way. You know how you have some people that barely seem to do anything and just have it all, right? And then some people, now within that first frame, right, the ones that seem like they have do nothing and get it all. You never really know if that's the case, by the way. It might just look like that. But let's say we're talking about the ones where that actually is the case. They just don't really do much and they just get whatever they want, kind of, generally, however you may take that. And then you have the other people toiling away and they're the have nots. They're just barely, they don't really have a lot. And they say things like, it's just the way it is, or blah, 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 whatever. When you look at someone's life like that, say you really broke free from the 9 to 5 and you don't got to do that anymore, or maybe you were born into it or whatever, but it's just your life, right? That is a complete mirror. I think I'm using the word right, simulacrum of what your mind state is like. And if you haven't, if you spend generations working like a worker bee, but not in a good way, because you can work and be more of a zest for life and enjoyment and have a rich and abundant life by doing lots of quotation marks hard work. That's different. I'm talking about someone who's just working and never getting ahead and always one step forward, two steps back, and always hard work the whole life and never really had anything to show for it and tried. You know what I mean? Or maybe she's tried for a long time and then just kind of rode the momentum to death. Sorry to laugh about that, but well, death doesn't really exist like people think it does. It's different than what you think it is. But anyway, we don't need to get into that. It's not important. Yeah, I just think it's kind of. Um, Hold on a second here. Oh, there we go. Anyway, I don't know. That's so dark. Um, it's cool to think about. It's just a complete mirror of your mind. And there's also, man, just always remember though, within those things, there's always infinite ways it can be other than what you think it is. Like you can look at someone who looks like they're getting everything they want and they don't have to try hard, but you don't know in the background what you don't see, that all the hours where they're not around you, which is probably a lot, what they're really doing, how they're really acting, what they're really practicing. And it could just be like they're doing nothing and they just happen to get it, or they could be doing things you don't know about and you just have no idea. You're only looking at what you think you see, and a lot of the times it's colored by who you are and what you think about yourself and all this other shit you don't know about that's happening. But that's going off on a different tangent than what I really want to talk about. I just thought it was cool how you can look at someone's life and you can kind of see how their mind is. Boom, boom. Although it's always murky, because like I guess like we were just talking about, you never really know. But just a general thing, so you do know it would be that way. If that makes any sense. It's very interesting, because the universe it entertains everybody. It harbors, it loves everyone. So if it doesn't look at it as, it's more, it looks like what you focus on and what you end up doing is what it keeps giving you, kind of thing. It doesn't feel any way about it. It's just how it works, right? So we have both lives. You have the people who are toiling away and barely have that nothing, and then the people who are just maybe figure something out and don't work nearly as hard and just have free time and abundance and cool experiences and all this easy stuff. And you have them both living here on the same, seemingly same planet, right? And it's just interesting to me. Are all working together, or it's all puzzle pieces, everyone working together. Maybe the have nots are like, oh, those rich people. Well, maybe, but no, it's not always the case. Not always the case. Hmm. I just found that interesting. Creating how why I find it interesting is like 2 points of being, and they're creating their own realities in a seemingly shared reality state to have a certain type of experience. and how you can multiply those 2 points by 6.8 billion or whatever the human, how much supposed to be, how many humans there. But just 2 points, and they each think a different way, and each have different belief structures molded from when they were born to now, plus predisposed stuff from generations of stuff, kind of generally in there. And they both, and one could not even be thinking about this kind of stuff at all, and one could be heavy into it. One could just be just blipping along. It just happens to be on the right track, and everything's working out for him. And he's not thinking about spiritual this, spiritual that. All right, and the other one could have gone through the gamut of, wow, man, what's life about? Is it this? Is it that? And they're just working and toiling, this job, and they're never making it, and they never have anything, and they're jealous of this person, and they think rich people are all evil or whatever. You have these two different mind points, and you see one person's life and another person's life. They have the same resources, and I mean, not in the physical sense, but that too. But I mean, because you get born here or there, so they don't really have the same physical resources. Not really, but they do. But I don't want to get into it. What I mean is, in a hand in the clay, pure energy, moving image of eternity way, we all have the same ability to create our own reality. Is what I mean. And here we are at the shared reality, so we can see what each other are creating, but it morphs it in a way so where it's like a world, and all these portions of shared realities with completely different thought systems, creating completely different realities, somehow completely fit together to complete this experience. Is fucking amazing. And it's always changing. The fact it's always changing is probably the only way it works. And it's always changing and morphing into something more preferred, blah blah blah, even if you don't know it. I think now that is what is fucking amazing, right? That's all I got.